Welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a new video on using MongoDB Realm with Expo, and specifically with Expo Router. I did a video on this a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. Did not use Expo Router, so that'll be new. Also, I know there is an Expo template, but the Expo template requires Typescript, and there's some magic stuff going on in there. So I'm just trying to do a plain JavaScript with Expo Router single stack application. So let's get to the code. I'm going to follow along with an approach that I've used in the past for creating apps with Expo Router. There'll be links to those videos included below, but let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to create an app using a blank template for SDK 49. There might be an updated approach to this, but this is the one that I know now, so that's what I'm going with. So let this go and create the app for us. Okay, now let's switch into our app directory, cd, where is it going to go? App with Realm. And then now there's a couple of changes that we need to make to the project to get it going. But first we need to install some additional libraries for Expo Router. So let's install them. Don't worry, these all of this stuff will be included in a blog post, which will tell you what are all the libraries you need to install. Okay, now we've installed those libraries. Now let's open this up in our editor because the next set of changes are modifications to some of the files. So let's open this up in VS Code. Alright, so we're in VS Code, and one of the first things we need to do is make a change inside of our package.json. So we'll go up here and we need to change this entry point. And so we made that change. Let's kind of line that up. And then next we need to make a few more. And then next we need to make a change in app.json, I believe. And so we need to set a scheme in here. So scheme, and we'll do app with Realm, and we'll set that as our scheme. And then next we need to update our Babel config. So we need to add a plugin. And now since the entry point is no longer app.js, we need to create a app directory. So let's create an app directory and create an index file in there. So now inside of our app directory, let's add the index file. And then now we'll just put a basic page in there. And so will just let us know we're on our home page. And right now, let's just first check we have our basic routing and everything straight. So let's see if we can run this thing. All right, and we have our basic app open with our home page at the top. All right. So now comes the fun part. Let's get Realm installed. And so let's install these packages now. So let's go back to our terminal window. And we need to install Realm and Realm React. Okay. Now let's reload our application. And let's go to our app and see what we got. All right, everything's still good. So one of the important things when working with Realm is that you need to use a provider, and the provider needs to be able to wrap all of the routes in your application. Right now we just have this one route here, but the best solution that I've found so far is to just create a layout here right at the root of my app and then wrap everything inside of that. So if we come into our app and we say layout.js, so we come into our layout, and here's the code for it, so let's type it all. We have our stack, we have our Realm provider, and then we have our main app layout here. and then this provider requires a schema. We'll put that schema in a little bit later, but I just wanted to give you an idea of how we're going to kind of lay everything out. And so let's see if this thing will run. All right, and so here's the error that kind of stumped me for a while, and it's this: did you run pod install? And I've never really had to run pod install when using Expo applications, so I fumbled around for a while. This is a solution that I found. I don't know if it's the right solution, but this is what works for me. And so what I'm going to do is, let's go back to our terminal, and then down here in our terminal, I'm going to say np, what am I going to say? npx expo pre-build. And then it asks for the bundle identifiers, and then it's going to create the directories for the Android app and the iOS app. It's going to do, and then here it'll install the CocoaPods, and then by installing the CocoaPods, that will install the additional libraries that are needed to make Realm work. The one thing that you do need to know is you need to, if you're going to deploy this using EAS, you're going to need to add the new directories that you created, basically the Android directory and the iOS directory. You're going to have to add it to gitignore so that it doesn't get uploaded when you try to do the hosted build. So we're going to let this run. Okay, looks like everything's good, so now let's go back to our code. And let's see if we can just get it away with just a reload here. No, it looks like we can, so let's do Control-C. Let's try again. This first build is going to take a while, so you got to be a little patient. Okay, that took a while, but now it's finally at the point where it's installing it on my simulator. And you notice now it's not running inside of Expo Go anymore. It's kind of running by itself with its own dev client. And now you can see we have our application. And now let's move on to the next part. So we know we have Realm installed now. So back here, we know we need a schema here on our Realm provider. So let's create a schema. This schema that I'm going to use the same task schema that's in the default Expo template that they have, and also when you look at the sample app, I've just converted so that it works with JavaScript. The one that's provided requires you to work with Typescript. And so I Googled around and figured out how to redo it and use it with just JavaScript. So let's just create a new file. And I'm just going to paste the contents in and talk through it because it doesn't make sense to kind of type it. So this is the task file. And it's just a class, a JavaScript class. And up here we identify the properties, which are an ID, description, is complete, and when it's created. These static fields are required by Realm. That's what we have going on here. And so what this is indicating, what's the primary key. This is specifying the schema, its task, primary key, again in here, properties, and then you need to define the types, let's say the Realm types, because it's not JavaScript types, the Realm types for each one of the properties on the object. So once again, you see we have our ID, description, is complete, and created at. So ID, description, created at. You can also set default values. So as you can see here, I'm setting the default value to the current date on created at, and for incomplete, I'm setting it to false. Also, you can specify whether there's an index on it. So here, their indexing is complete. And then here's a constructor that you can use to create a new object. One thing I did different, I was trying to solve another problem. I'm creating my ID using a UUID as opposed to an object ID. You can use an object ID if you want to, it'll work fine. So now we have this class, and from this class, we can get our schema so that we can get our layout compiling properly. So let's go back over to our layout. Remember, your schema is an array. So in here, we say task. Let's save this. We need to import it. So now we just imported our task, and let's save again. This thing didn't like that. So now I reloaded it, recompiled, and we have our app. So now we're basically set up. We, at this point, should have a Realm database with the schema, and it's just waiting for us to add stuff to it. So let's figure out the easiest way to do that. Well, first let's render what is in there already. And so that'll give us the opportunity to start to use some of the hooks that are provided by Realm. And the first one we're going to use is a useQuery hook. So we're going to kind of query whatever is in the database already. We want to do that here in our index page. So let's add that, see if we can get that in here. So import useQuery. Okay. And then what we'll do is right up here at the top, we'll say console log and useQuery. And then the first thing you need to do is you need to specify what you want to query, and we want to query task. And so you can see right there, we have nothing. So it's letting us know there's no items in our database at this point. So let's first start by creating a basic UI for you to provide what's needed to add an item to a Realm database. But to add an item to a Realm database, you're going to actually need use Realm. And that will give us the realm that we need. And so let's put that up top. And we're going to say const realm, R-E-A-L-M equals use realm. And then we know we're going to need a function, add task, which we'll use to kind of add the task to the database. And well, what else do we need? And then we're also up top here, we're going to need something to hold the text information from our text field. So we're going to say const and description ref. I've already kind of laid out some of this code so I know what these fields are. Okay, and then for actually adding a task, this is coming straight from this Realm documentation, so I'll just paste it in. Okay, and so to add a task, we're going to call Realm write. Everything inside of here is a transaction. We're going to create a new task using our constructor that we created. And then all that needs is the description ref, which is this ref that I've created up here, which we'll get from an input field I'm going to create in a second. After you create the task, we want to clear the input field and return the new task. So now let's add the input field. So I'm going to have to do some styling here. So we're going to create a view, and then let's create another view, and then inside of this view, let's create a text input. I'm going to paste this text input in because it's a lot of code. And let's get some of these imports resolved. So let's import, we need to import a bunch of this stuff from React Native. We need to import view. We need to import text input. Let's see what else. View, text input, I think that's it. And this, let's wrap this. So return. We need to import our use ref. And what else is it complaining about? And Halo styles doesn't exist. Oh yeah, we have a whole bunch of styles. I'm just going to paste in all the styles that I'll use for the final solution so that we can address this styles issue once. And then let's import style sheet from React Native. Still getting some errors. Text strings written must be rendered within a text component. All right, so what did I mess up? Text. Oh, get that out of there. Okay. It was that semicolon I had on the end there. So let's look what our app looks like now. So we have our basic input field. We need a button to actually save this thing, and when the buttons click, we'll call our add task. So let's drop the code in for the button. All right, so here's the code for the button. As I said, I just pasted in all the styles, so we have the style for the button already included. So when we click on the button, we're going to call our function that we created, add task. And then what that's going to do is, like I said, it will take the value from the description ref, it will create the new task, and then it will clear the field and return the task. So let's see if this works the first time around. Okay, I didn't import touchable opacity, so let's do that. Let's just get all my imports that I missed. I think that's the only one. Why does it do that? Sometimes it imports them, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, let's try a task. Task 1. Oh, I had an error here. I don't know why. I had put a I had set the value here to a blank. I thought I was using useState, so that was my error. So now that that's fixed, we can go back over here and let's see if we can get our first task entered. And we can save the task. Property task does not exist, so it looks like I missed another import. So let's import my task. And we've imported our task, so let's try this again. And so this is this polyfill warning that I've got that I've spent quite a bit of time trying to resolve, and I figured let me just push through, get this video done. I'll circle back around, and when I figure out exactly what the issue is, I'll update the associated blog post. But you can see it's cleared out the field. Let's take a look at the logs. And you can see here at the log, here's my first task. And let's put that in this screen, on the screen as a placeholder for now. So underneath this view, let's go down here and we'll just say text. And we have data. Is that what I'm getting back from my query? So I have remember I still have my useQuery running up here. This useQuery right here. So let's kind of do something productive with that. Let's change this to const tasks. And that will give us all of the tasks. Also, since this is a hook, so it will update whenever there are changes made to the database. So let's go down here and put tasks in here. And let's go back to our app. And so you can see here are the tasks that I've added. Here is another one. And you can see the tasks are getting added. So now we have the basics working, which is what we wanted to accomplish. So let's try and do some UI cleanup. And like I said, for the most part, the UI cleanup will be me pasting code and explaining what I'm going to do. We're going to put a flat list in here to kind of render this more appropriately. We're going to add the ability to delete. And I think that'll be about it. But first, let's fix this title up here on this page. And so what we can do is we can go inside of our index, and then right up top here, we can say stack. And let's import. Oh yeah, I gotta wrap this thing in a fragment. So let's wrap the fragment. Let's go down here to the bottom. Where's the end? And let's make sure we import our stack. I don't know why my imports are not working. So import. And now let's go back down here. And we have our options and title. So we have our title changed here. Let's update. What do we want to update next? Yeah, let's put the flat list in so that we can at least start to see our text looking right. So let's remove this. And I created a separate component for my flat list. And so I'm just going to we'll go in here inside of apps. We'll say a component. Then inside of components, we'll create a file, task list. And inside of here is where we'll create our task list and add some of the other functions that are missing. Let's pull over some imports that we know we're going to need. Let's save this. We'll start with, just take everything, kind of clean out the stuff we won't need later. So let's go over to task list. Let's paste this in. We only have one parameter here. It's going to be the data, and then of course we're going to have to return some content. And you guys know how it is. It is going to be a flat list object. We have our render item. We'll just call it the same thing. And then we need our key extractor. First of all, let's add that. Got our flat list up there first, and so then we can get some help here. There you go, key extractor. And the key extractor gives us an item. And then from that item, we will get the specific unique identifier. And then we'll make sure it's a string. So that's our basic flat list. And then our render item function. So let's do this, const. And as you know, this will get passed a parameter of item. And then we need to actually render this thing out. For now, let me just do this. And then we know in here, we have a, let's just dump everything. JSON.stringify item. I'm just doing this just to see if we have our basic FlatList functionality working. Let's see, I think I see some errors down here. Yep, it's complaining about the task. No, I did not. So let's go down here. And let's take this out. Task list, data, and then leave task is what we called it. I should be getting something. Oh, I didn't do a return here. All right, so we have our items kind of displayed as a list, but it's not a very pretty list. Here's where I'm just going to paste in the rest of the code for the render item to get this list looking better. Okay, so we pasted in a whole bunch of code. Let's kind of walk through it. We've cleaned up our render item. We've applied some styles to it, but at the end of the day, we're looping through. Here's where we render a description. We render created at. We render the ID. Then down here, we're going to render a checkbox for you to check whether or not it's complete. And then we add a delete button to delete. Right now, this is just a focus on the UI. I'll add the functions for toggling the status from complete to incomplete and from to delete an item after we take a look at the UI to make sure the UI is right. So let's go to the UI. And you can see we have our tasks with our bright red delete button. Let's add a new task. We have added our task to delete, but now we need to do something on the delete and on the status change there. So let's add those functions. Okay, so let's start first with the toggling of the status from is complete to from completed to not completed. So let's go up here. We'll paste the function in, and on toggle status, what we're going to do is we're going to take in a task. Then in our transaction, we're just going to toggle to complete from whatever its current value is back to a new value. Let's remove this console log. We don't need that there. Let's put a little comment up top to give us some space. And now let's add our function. So we'll go down here to our checkbox here in on press, on toggle status, and then we will use the item. So let's give it a try. Oh, Realm does not exist. I need to import Realm. Hold on. So I set it up there. I just didn't import it. So const. All right, let's see now. So it's changing the status from completed to not completed. So that's working. And then now let's add our delete. Same thing, let's add the function. Format this. Add our comment for some space. Same as the toggle status, we're going to pass in a task object, and then here you just need to pass the object to delete and it'll delete it. So let's go down and update our on delete. And give it an item. Okay, let's go back to our app. So now we're back in our app, and task to delete deletes the task. The other thing is let's refresh to make sure that it's really saving our data to the database. So it just reloaded everything, and let's add one final task. Final task is loaded. I'm going to wrap it here. I really just wanted to quickly go through this to show you how to get this set up. We've showed how to add a task, delete a task, and update a task by toggling it. We showed you how to get this working with Expo Router, and we showed you how to get it working in plain JavaScript. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed this. Please like, subscribe, and if anyone knows how to make this polyfill error go away, please feel free to drop a comment below. Take care. Bye.